The things I get to hear, it is so interesting. One of the things that is interesting about being able to talk to so many different people, so many different couples over like the last 9 plus almost a decade is that I hear so many polar opposite experiences with two people that are trying to come together and do life together. And it is real. If, for instance, you'll have one person who's like, I never heard my parents argue. They never argued in front of me. They were always very calm, nothing ever popped off. And then you will have the other person in the relationship, like, no, my parents really they argue all the time, every day, which may very well be an exaggeration, but that's how it felt to them. Like I felt you arguing all the time. I witnessed them arguing all the time. And these two people are now coming together, working to figure out what that looks like and what their relationship with conflict is, right? And I actually have a video about this, right? About, arguing in front of your kids and what that looks like. So you can check that out. But this is asking a different question, okay? Because the latest polar opposite or pendulum swinging situation that I've been dropped in is a couple for whom one is like, my parents, I grew up, everyone was like, I love you all the time, 7 times a day. When you woke up in the morning, when you went to bed at night, there were hugs, there were kisses. We like convened around the dinner table. We talked about our life. Okay, we talked about our feelings. And then you have the other person in the relationship who were like, love, I may have heard I love you twice in my life. We were not demonstrative or verbally expressive in that way about our emotions, about how we felt about each other. We did things for each other. We were of service, but we did not show that kind of thing. And then you have these two people now dropping in, trying to figure out how do we love and receive love. And on top of that, how do we show our kids? How do we demonstrate this for our children and our progeny? How to receive love and how to be loved and how to give love. When you had two very different experiences growing up, which I think is a really interesting and important question that we don't really ask ourselves, so we get to ask it today. We get to sit down and we get to talk about it and think about it and consider it today together. So join me in this conversation, will you? And let me know down in the comments maybe what your experience was. Were you in the camp over here? It was very much a verbal and expressive demonstration of love in your household growing up? Was it some on the other side, all the way over there, of like you hardly ever heard it? It wasn't very demonstrative. Were you somewhere in the middle, in the nuance and in the gray area? Let me know down below. I feel like I personally was. Ugh, I want to say that I was in the gray area, but closer in terms of seeing my parents, closer to I have no recollection of a lot of affection between my parents. But to me, I'm like, oh, very much expressive about how they felt about me. They're proud of me. They love me, that kind of thing. So over here, so it's kind of like two camps. So something to consider right there is how you felt as a child growing up in terms of your parents towards you, and then what you visualized and saw with your parents, which are two could be very two separate things because how you deal with the partners, that's not necessarily how you deal with your child. So very juicy. I feel like very interesting, very important question to ask ourselves. And it starts with what we're doing right now. How did we grow up? What did we experience? Just getting awareness of that. Like I said, how did, what camp are you in? I think the next layer of that, right? The next phase for me in my own retrospection and is okay, well, how did I feel about it? Hold on. Noise suppression. No, I don't want to. That's yeah. I'm out. I'm outside. There are noises. Thank you for your patience. But that next phase is how did I feel about it? And when I consider how I feel about it, I felt I was clear that I had two parents that loved me. I felt very loved. I felt supported growing up. My mom fought for me in a lot of ways. I felt this more quietly from my father, but I definitely felt love from my father. Um, I felt I felt like I had a voice to an extent. Okay, I grew up in a traditional black household where you said some things that didn't line up. It was you being disrespectful. Like I definitely had that element, but overall, I came out of my childhood feeling cared for and loved. You know, there's ups and downs with that, with discipline, me doing childlike things, with with whatever. But I did feel that. Now, how did I feel about my parents? Well, you watch a certain video, probably know a little bit more about that. I talked about that on this channel. I did not, I do not have recollection of affection from my parents. I did not see a lot of physical affection. I didn't hear a lot of compliments toward each other. I don't recall them having fun together and enjoying each other's company. After their divorce, like 2 years after their divorce, I did, which is also a great story. Like I said, you should check that out here on the channel. I'll try to link it down below, or at least a revealing story. But growing up, I don't recall that. Now, I say I don't recall because it doesn't mean that it never happened. And I think this is a really important piece for us. What I'm about to say is a really important piece for us to drop into, myself included, is that I don't recall it. Maybe it happened. Because they could be like, oh, well, we were affectionate. We held hands. We went on these trips together. We remember that time we were on a cruise. I don't. I don't remember. You know who wasn't on the cruise? Me. So I wouldn't know, right? When we say something never happened or we never saw it, it doesn't necessarily mean it never happened, but it means that it didn't happen often enough in our sight for us to remit it to memory. You feel me? Like it didn't, like it might have happened, but it was the exception. My brain, my childhood brain, and even my teenage young adult brain, I'm recalling the things that I saw over time. What did I see consistently happen? And if I didn't see that consistently happen, it's like, it didn't happen. I can't recall it. That's really important for us to understand, I think, as human beings in a relationship, because guess what? That also means the opposite is true. You will have not so shining moments as a couple. You will have moments that your kids see that you wish that you can take back. You wish that you can pause. You wish that you can just make so that wave a wand so that they never heard it or experienced it. There are things that, seasons that you have that don't feel that great. And if you have the breadth of your relationship is that you have a solid foundation, friendship, joy, laughter, love, affection. These are the things that are going to stand out in our kids' minds. They're going to remember, they're going to recall those moments with their parents. So even in our not so shiny moments, they were there, but they're not making up the majority of what's happening in their memory. And honestly, it's not making up maybe the majority of what's happening in the relationship. Because even as grown up human beings, we tend to latch on to what's happening really consistently. We tend to now we also can latch on like that one time you did this, now you never did anything nice for me. And it's like, hold up, let's look at our history for a second. I dropped the ball here, but come on now. But we also can have the tendency to just be like, nope, I remember us being a solid couple. I feel that for us, and I know we have our issues. So every couple has their stuff. Stuff will come up. It's the nature of going through life with another human being. But we're solid. We feel good. There's love. There's connection here, and we know it. And so when we think about how we show love, how we receive love, I'm not talking about the love languages, right? That's a part of this. That's a part of the picture because it became part of the picture. It became like this huge thing. And it really changed the way people looked at loving and being loved. And I get that. And I feel like that's important. I think it gave us a layer of understanding. I think it gave us vocabulary to talk about how we feel loved and how we give love and how we receive love. So that and dropping into what are we demonstrating to each other? how much are we demonstrating of like the parts that feel really good versus the parts that feel, not so good? And what are we authentically and genuinely showing to our children? What are they seeing? What are they picking up on? Because as a twice child of divorce, okay, I call myself that for a reason. Again, watch the if you have time, watch the video. I I definitely feel as if I heard some things, I saw some things. I also know I felt some things. You think you're hiding this from me because you're not talking right now. But I feel the tension of you not talking right now. I hear the change in your vocal tone when you're talking to me because you're upset about something that they did. I feel the shift in your energy that makes me think that you're mad or that you're sad or that you're upset. I see you walking past each other and not saying anything. I feel that. I feel the energy of that. So it's not just what we say or don't say or what we show or don't show, but also the energy of that. Keeping that in mind for the kids, but also for us when the energy feels off. Sometimes that's like we can acknowledge that's the case and address it. Like, something feels off. The energy of this feels off. I don't know what's going on. Should we talk about this thing? That kind of conversation. Marriage is a lot about awareness. Marriage, oh man, I remember when I first started this thing, things would come to you. You work with enough couples, you're married long enough, you're in a relationship, you're dealing with your stuff, you're having revelations, you're realizing certain things. There, there's something to be said for awareness and clarity. Marriage is a lot of awareness of self, awareness of your partner, and thus awareness of what's going on in the relationship as a whole. But we got to keep our eyes open. We got to, kind of stay alert energetically at times. Sometimes we don't have the energy for that. And other times when we get it, we're like, okay, we need to check in, like something feels off. Sometimes that's the only way we have to describe it. I have a new this is seamless. It feels like a shameless plug as I'm about to say it out of my mouth, but I have a new guide that I put out, and I say this because I remember there's a distinct part I put in there when it's like you don't exactly know what's going on, but something just feels off. How do you reconnect in those moments? How do you broach the conversation? How do you turn things around on its head without it being pushy or feeling uncomfortable? This is, one of the most practical things that we have to jump into as couples. Like, it's emotional, but it can also be really practical, and it can mean just making a simple tweak. A lot of times we overcomplicate things. I get it. I have my seasons and my areas where I overcomplicate and I have to kind of strip down to the nitty gritty. But yeah, like, just saying this is a comprehensive, really clear real life scenario guide for connection when your life is busy, when things feel chaotic. So if that sounds like something that interests you, I'm gonna put the link down below. So just, meet me in the description. It's there for you. But ultimately, it's worth considering this question. It's very much worth considering how we want to be loved, how we receive love, how we give love. There's this quote. I'm going to end with this. Okay. There's this quote. Is it a quote? I don't know if it's a quote. I feel like it's more of a snippet, a vignette, a story, so like a short story, but very short. So stay with me. But basically, this guy came to this guru and he's like, I really want to find the one for me. I'm ready for a serious relationship. I'm locked in. And the guru says, okay, write a list of all of the things that you want in this person. And, the guy went and wrote a list, like one of those like legal pads, writing the list. She's got to be self, assured, God fearing, honest, trustworthy, reliable, compassionate, understanding, critical thinker, just all these things that he was like, this is what I want in a partner. I'm serious. I know this stuff. I live and breathe it. He brought it back to the guru, and the guru says, great. You know, at the top of this paper where it says the things that I want in a partner, you cross that out and put the things that I will be for my partner. And we were like, well, all right. But what we take from that, right? Because you took from it too. You had a moment. You had a moment. You were like, okay, I see what they did there. Is that we think about all these things we want from our partner. And yet we also have to think about how we are giving, what we are doing, what we are presenting to them. Are we the kind of passionate person that we want to have in our lives? Are we patient? Are we kind? Are we understanding? Do we give grace? Are we, trustworthy? You want all these things, and also, are we being these things? Are we embodying these things for ourselves? For us and our own growth, first and foremost. And then also, of course, it translates into the health of the relationship. And so I'm leaving with that because it's powerful and it's a reminder in considering and asking ourselves, how do we love? How do we receive love? And how do we give love? It's a question we don't always ponder, but it's important. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for having this conversation. I hope that this is interesting for you, is beneficial for you, for whomever needs to hear it, and that you're taking this time with me to consider something that maybe you don't always consider. If something resonated with you, let me know down in the comments. I appreciate that. And roll call if you've gotten this far. Say hey if you're still here. All right. I'm Imani Isha, and I'm here making videos every day and having these conversations with you every day to remind us to stay connected to ourselves, to our partners, and to creating a life that feels good to us, that feels good to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.